Hi y'all, Renee here. I am here today to show you what I did with the paper pumpkin from October 2025. So here's the empty box. We'll get rid of that. So these are the cards that the kit was designed to create. And yes, I did create all 9 of these, but then I made even more. Actually, I threw the box away and I think, let me pick it up off the floor. Wow, that was a workout. I made 36 cards out of this kit that was designed for 9. So woohoo for me. So let me show you the cards I made. Let's see. We will start with this middle one. I love the way these cards turned out. Unfortunately, you can't get this kit anymore, but just to give you an idea of what the paper pumpkin kits have in them, this is fuzzy. And it was just so fun to make these. I still have some of these little sequins left. I didn't use all of the sequins out of the kit. And then what I do is I take the card bases and I cut them in half and then put one half on one card base, on one white card base, and then one half on another white card base. So that's what I did with these. And these are the three additional cards that I made using these red card bases. I don't think you're really going to be able to tell, but there's like a little bit of a background stamping on here, or background texture that's really kind of cool. So then what I did for these next 3, and they're all the same, is I used an old stamp set that I absolutely love. It is retired, but if you have it, it's called Reindeer Fun, and I also have the dies that go with it. And I just love how this set has so many things in it that I can use, and I use it, like I said, all the time. So I did use this set, and I used an old, close to my heart, tag die, but there's a million tag dies out there, including some from Stampin' Up that you can look at. My store is linked down below. Just made 2 tags, kind of offset them. This, I believe, is possibly Mossy Meadow or Garden Green. It's one of the 2. I think it's Garden Green because it's not quite as deep as Mossy Meadow. And then I just colored the little reindeer in with my alcohol markers, just a whole mix of alcohol markers. I have some that are Stampin' Up, some that are Spectrum Noir, and so just colored those up real quick. Really, really easy. The stamp itself lended most of the shading, so I just put additional darker ink wherever the shading was. Really, really easy to try to color. And then this background that is on these tags is actually a stamp set that I did not pull out. I wonder if I have it handy. I really love it. It's called Lasting Linen. I am not sure if this is still available. If it's retired, I'll put a little note across the bottom. Otherwise, you can look up Lasting Linen. And this is the new packaging, by the way, from Stampin' Up. They've changed out of the I guess CD cases, is what you call it. Anyway, this is just a background stamp that creates this linen look. And hopefully that comes in clear. I absolutely love that background, and I'm using it all the time. As you can tell, I've already stained my stamp. But anyway, so that's the background stamp. If I can get this back in here. That's the background stamp that I used. I'm not sure I'm loving this new design. I wish they would have made these the same size as their old packaging, but instead they made it longer, I think, so that it could fit more different things. So I may turn around and change this out for these ones that I got from Amazon, because they're taller than my storage unit. I have a scrap box, and my scrap box containers and the areas where I have them set is set to a certain height. And if I want to change the height, I'm going to lose some storage areas in other places. So I'm probably going to change this one out. So that's a long story longer. So that's what I did with that particular card. So the next one we're going to look at is this one. And I love the way these came out. I love this ornament. It's actually a 2-layer. And I was trying not to make my cards too thick, but you could have put this top layer up on additional foam underneath these little corners, and that would have looked really pretty. But I was trying to keep it a little bit flatter for mailing, but I did these exactly as they're called for. And then I used that green background to make some more that were very similar to these last ones. But I used a different stamp in the stamp set, a little mama and her baby. And I used, this is, I think, real red as the back tag. And then I forgot to mention, this ribbon is just some, close to some Stampin' Up. Let me grab it. I'll show you what it is. It's the Stampin' Up Classic Ribbon, and it is in the color Basic Beige. So that's what I used, was this ribbon. So there's that one. And then the last one, I loved this one. It came with, these are glued down, so there's some additional dimension right here. And then this is fuzzy, like the tree. Love that. So that's how these ones came out, made them exactly as they're called for. And then the extras, this is my basic design for my Christmas cards this year. Once I get a grand total count of all the cards that I have, and I will figure out how many more I need, and I'll be making this design. So this was really nice because this background was already that linen texture that I was going to use anyway. So with these, it's this Shepherd's Care, which I believe is still available. I love this stamp set. It's just so beautiful. The way it is red rubber, which they won't be making anymore, which I do wish it was photopolymer so that I could see what I was doing a little bit better, but I use my Misty stamp positioner, and that helps me a lot, get it in the right place. But I love the way that this came out with the little Bethlehem in the background, and then the shepherd and the sheep. And I used a little bit, I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera, probably not. Well, you got a little bit right there. See that little shiny? I used a little bit of stickles on the star to give it a little bit of shine. Quick and easy. And this color, I believe, is, what is that color? I'm looking, might be Cloud Cover. Might be Cloud Cover is what I used here in the background. So just some paper for my stash. And then I used a little bit of, I think this was a Stampin' Blend in Clouded Cover. I think that's what it was. It may have been the actual Stampin' Write marker, which unfortunately they are discontinuing. So they are on, some of them anyway, are on the last chance section for a pretty good discount. So you may want to check that out down below if that's something you're interested in, is getting the rest of the Stampin' Write markers for your collection. So there was those. Now this all came with 9 envelopes. The fronts of the envelopes were a very similar linen look to these card bases. And then the back was this really pretty brown that matched the brown on this background. So I took all of the envelopes apart. There were 9 envelopes. And out of those envelopes and some cardstock, I made all of these. So let's take a quick look at those cards. So because the envelopes, there were 9 of them, because the envelopes had that linen background, and that's what I was going to be using for all of my basic Christmas cards this year, I went ahead and made 9 using the envelope front. And they are all very similar to this other, just on the envelope paper instead of the cardstock. So a little bit thinner, but it still works because I use liquid glue. This is my glue container, but I use Barely Art liquid glue, and I just refill this container over and over. It would also work with the green glue. Just make sure you don't put a whole bunch, or else you're going to start having some bubbling. But this worked out really well. So I made 9 of those. Then with the envelopes, I took the flap and I chopped the flap at kind of an angle, and then created this. And then from the extra pieces from the angle, I created this stripe. And then I had part of the envelope front that I cut off, and I created that stripe. And then I just brought in some craft cardstock and some real red. These are some bells from this particular stamp set. And then the Merry Christmas that I used here was the Merry Christmas stamp that came in this kit, which I forgot to show you. I am so sorry. This is the stamp set that comes in the paper pumpkin for October. And I used the Merry Christmas, which you can see I used it over and over. It's very stained, but that's fine. It works just fine. So that's the Merry Christmas that I used for the fronts of all of these. So these are all exactly the same, except that one set of 4 I did with Real Red, and then the remaining 5 I did with Garden Green. And then this ribbon right here, unfortunately, it is no longer available, and I'm not even sure I have any more. I am not seeing it in my ribbon, so no. I don't have any more of this ribbon. It was a really cool ribbon from close to my heart, but it's retired, unfortunately, because they're no longer around. So with that said, here are all the cards. I know there were quite a few duplicates, but you know, when you're making Christmas cards, feel free to do duplicates because that's a lot of cards and a lot of card ideas. So there are all the cards that I created out of this kit that was meant to be for 9 cards. Like I said, I made 36, so really happy with that. So I'm going to let you go. I hope you're having a great day, and I will be back soon to show you another set of cards. This time I made, are you ready for it? I made 65 cards out of a little 6x6 paper pack. So I will be back very soon to show you those cards. With that, I hope you're having a wonderful holiday, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!